it's really smooth and nice. But if I turn off the anti-alias and do a circle and G and fill it, you'll notice that the edge is really blocky. It's a very distinct blue and white, where this does a fade where it makes it smooth. And this is basically what anti-alias does. It determines if the edge is automatic smooth like this or is edge like this. For this lesson and for my personal habit, make sure you turn the anti-alias off. It might look edgy like this, but don't worry about it, because eventually if you zoom out, it basically looks the same, and since you're working on a bigger size, you can't really make a difference. And the reason for that is, there's a few reasons for it, but I'll give you one simple example. Let's say I select something outside here and I want to fill this part with a different color. For example, orange. You'll notice that when I filled it with orange, because the anti-alias, the edge, they made it smooth, you see there's this white line between the fill, because when I fill, it automatically fills everything that's white, but since this part has a different type of shade of blue, it couldn't really fill it perfectly to the edge. Whereas if the original selection has the anti-alias off, you select an extra chunk and you fill, you see how the edge merge perfectly. And when you zoom out, it does make a difference. You see right here it has a white edge, and where here it fills in perfectly. And other than that, there are different personal reasons that I choose to turn anti-alias off, and I'll get to that as I'm coloring. But just remember, when you're practicing yourself and doing the assignments, have the anti-alias off. Another thing I want to go over with you is the action key. For cell shading, one of the tools that you'll be using most often is the lasso tool and also the fill tool. What you don't want to do is having to go back to the fill tool to fill and choose a color and just fill an area repeatedly, because after a while it gets really tedious and repetitive. And this is where the action tool comes in. And this is a good example of showing you how to use action key as well. If you go to Windows and you go to Actions, you see that there's this window that comes out here, probably with a lot of preset setting already, but you could just ignore all of these for now. What you want to do is create a hotkey that you could just press once and it'll fill the area with whatever the foreground color is. So what you do is you click New to make a new action key, and for a name you could just type in something, for example fill, and for the set you just leave it at default action. For a function key, say something that you feel comfortable. I have it as F2, function key 2, and shift control depending what you want, but I choose F2 because it's one button and you press it and it fills. And for color, it just determines what the action key color will be in this list right here. So once you click record, it will record whatever that you're doing from this point on. So let's just click record for now. And what I want to do for this action key is basically just fill an area with a select color. So since I have the paint bucket tool already, and it doesn't really matter what color it is, just click on the screen and it'll fill whatever area with the foreground color, and that's it. You just place it, then you click stop, and you've created your first action key. Now let's see how this is applicable. Let's just undo that for now. So now your F2 key is set so that you fill with whatever colors the foreground color is. So let's say I select the foreground color, and while I'm working, I use the lasso tool to select an area like this, and I just press F2. and there we go, and filled with this color. And this is really handy because when you're doing selection and filling and shadows and everything, you'll be using the lasso and fill key really often. And so you could just lasso fill, just keep doing this over and over, and it becomes really fast. And this really helps trim down the work process time by a lot. I actually never really used Action Key until recently. In fact, I used it for some specific situation before, but I never really tried to apply it to drawings and how it could improve my speed and how it could really help. And then when I'm doing the cell shading, I just finally got sick of just going back to paint bucket and fill and choosing color, and I just set an Action Key and basically, yep, the anti-alias and this Action Key, something you want to pay attention to in this lesson. And because for next part when I'm coloring the character, I'll be filling pretty quickly, so just so that you know what's happening. So now we have the basic out of the way. We could turn this action windows off, and let's go back to the coloring our character. Let's see, we could turn this history window off as well. So you see there's 4 of these layer or line art. What you want to do first is select them all, shift and click, and group them. So it's become one block. And because the line layer you set as multiply. It's okay when all these line goes over and you have these sketches line before underneath. And it's a personal taste. I like to keep it under just to have this kind of sketchy look to my drawing. So what you want to do is make a new layer. Like the previous drawing where I select a circle and made it red, I'm going to do a selection for this character as well. And so it's just to select the whole general silhouette. And I'll select it really fast. One reason is you'll notice when I'm selecting is because the line is sketchy, you might ask, how am I going to select or know what to select? And on the opposite, I keep the line sketchy so that I could somewhat use a selection tool as a drawing tool and fixes and add interesting little details to the silhouette and fix some lines that might not look right. And I'll show you what I mean.